Hello and welcome to today's chat. I'm Davina. We're going to discuss the fact that former President Trump has just got four fresh new indictments. We'll read them out loud. We'll see if Jack Smith has gone live yet with his remarks on C-SPAN. No, it looks like not yet. Statement from Special Counsel Jack Smith live shortly. Okay, so that is what C-SPAN is saying. I don't know if that's affecting how well my internet's working. But anyway, let's have a look. Former President Trump has been indicted on 4 counts in federal court in Washington. Count number 1, 18 U.S.C. 371, conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and a conspiracy against rights. So that's nice. That's been discussed as a conspiracy to deprive people of having their vote counted, their constitutional right to not only vote, but to have that vote contribute to the results of an election, to be counted. Because Donald Trump, as we know, sought via a variety of means to overthrow the results of a legitimate presidential election. And we haven't even touched on yet, nobody else has touched on the fact that he very likely shaped his COVID response, shaped his undermining of public health messaging in a way that would impact how and who decided to use mail-in votes. So Donald Trump let people who were on board with facts and have concerns about getting COVID, he let them do the mail-in voting out of fear of getting COVID at a stage where vaccines weren't even invented yet for the disease, whilst telling his base at the same time that COVID was overhyped, that there was a hysteria, that he was the only person who could stand up against doctors and public health researchers. And so his voters were far more likely to vote in person without any fear of being contaminated by an airborne virus that is not deadly for everybody, but if transmission was allowed to spread in an unrestricted fashion, then yes, more people would lose their lives, because a percentage of people who contract COVID, particularly a percentage of unvaccinated people who contract COVID, are more likely to have a severe experience, potentially be hospitalized and lose their lives. And a study came out today, which I might go back to, that said after the vaccines were made broadly available, there was a far higher percentage of Republican voters who died relative to Democratic voters. And all of this, I would argue, is a consequence of Donald Trump's choice to try and enhance his own re-election prospects by shaping the electorate in that way, by saying to people who he sang out loud, knowing that people who trusted him would take this message on board, mail-in voting was not to be trusted and that COVID was not to be feared. So a lot of people died, not just those who died during the January 6th attack on the Capitol. A lot of people joined in with that effort, which was the in-person prong of Donald Trump's scheme, devised with various groups that we know of, Mike Flynn, the My Pillow guy. What's his name? Mike something. Let's look it up. Because he was photographed being outside the White House with a dot point piece of paper listed as a plan of declare martial law, seize voting machines, etc., etc. Maybe if I put in My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell, there we go. Okay. And now we'll go Mike Lindell, photographed. It would be nice if he was caught an indictment as well. Mike Lindell, photographed, leaving White House, holding paper. Of course, zoom lenses. Here we go. A photographer from the Washington Post caught a snapshot of MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell holding a document as he exited a meeting with then President Trump. The photographer had a detailed enough photograph that you can read much of what was captured. So let's go back and look at that evidence of there being a plan that Mike Lindell was part of. Ooh, something, install someone now as acting national security, something. Sidney Powell, Bill Olson. It's got names, and his coffee cup is obscuring some of it, but it says trigger something powers, make clear this is China, Iran, something, instruct Frank. I might bring that up on screen so everybody can have a look. Oh, Centipede Nation, what's that? Is that a good schedule? Oh, Christopher's here. Hello. Bob is reminded that he has a booster. Excellent. Christopher's here. Hello, Christopher. So I'm going to change what I'm sharing on screen so I can bring up Mike Lindell and his and the photograph that was taken. Okay. So this is the enhanced copy. Let's see if there's a smaller copy. No. So they have their ideas about what they think the text says. Reveals phrases such as insurrection, act now as a result of the assault, and Frank Colon as acting national security. New York Magazine's intelligentsia division found and contacted Frank Colon to ask him about his involvement with Mike Lindell and Trump, but he surprisingly said he doesn't know anything about it. Yeah. Mike Lindell claimed that the memo was written by an attorney and he was just a messenger. Trigger something powers, make clear this is China, Iran. Instruct Frank, so that'll be Frank Colon. So obviously Frank might deny it, but it seems like the co-conspirators thought they could depend on him. Him with getting evidence of all the election and all information regarding people he knows who have security, have done massive research on these issues. Okay, no, Mike Lindell's lying. It's definitely not written by an attorney. This is Mike Lindell having a little speech that he's going to make to Trump, having boasted about him to himself that he's done massive research on these issues. He's an attorney with cyber something expertise and is up to speed on election issues. Insurrection act now as a result of assault on the something, martial law if necessary upon the first hint of any something. So today, yet another day that I'm grateful that people didn't turn up, decent people didn't turn up at January 6th to counter-protest the Trump riot. So the pro-Trump riot, all the people whose arrests and convictions and jail sentences, even though in some cases patently inadequate, those sequence of events, those arrests, those encounters with the justice system have surely had a chilling effect. So Donald Trump today, I'm sure, will be on his little Truth Social rampage trying to incite some type of violence to deter prosecutors. None of it's worked so far. He has 74 plus 4 indictments. So Donald Trump's up to 78 indictments. He hasn't been able to intimidate grand juries out of bringing home the indictments, saying, yep, we've listened to the evidence. We take our responsibility seriously as a group of people randomly selected to be on a jury and then not expelled from the jury. This is a good day. Let's crack open the champagne. I don't drink champagne. So what will we do? My daughter's having a play date. My son's using a device. I wonder what we have in the house. My husband's having a nap. Somebody wake that man up and tell him to celebrate. He doesn't care as much as I do. I care because fascism has consequences. And what Donald Trump did was not just incite a riot on January the 6th. What Donald Trump did was not just mismanage COVID or break federal law in relation to hush money payments to a Bob just saying, I'm coming right back, guys. I just have to answer the door because for reasons. I'll be right back, but like a minute. I think that's your mom. All right, I'm coming back. Ta-da, I'm back. All right. Pretend using grape juice, pretend it's wine. Yes. Got some water. And an adorable little baby silicon cup. So far, I've only seen news about Trump being indicted. It would be great if some more people were indicted. There were 6 co-defendants who were unnamed. So might be some of the attorneys, John Eastman, Jeffrey Clark, Sidney Powell, maybe Mike Lindell, maybe Frank Colin. So that is very exciting. What else is new? Oh, and we have a judge's name who's going to be presiding over the Trump case in DC. She's a Barack Obama appointee. Her name is Judge Chutkan. And that's exciting because, Judge Eileen Cannon already demonstrated her ability to make a fool of herself, bend over backwards to accommodate unreasonable and frankly ridiculous requests from Trump to get a special master to go through all of the seized documents and seized boxes from Mar-a-Lago following a judge signing off on a search of that property. And yeah, she tried to delay the whole thing by appointing a special prosecutor to go through all of the stuff because Trump claimed it was totally unfair to him. As he said in subsequent interviews, I think with Sean Hannity, he had lots of things in that, like golf shirts, dress shoes. Absolutely, you should delay justice so Trump gets to go through and retrieve some personal effects from the seized boxes of documents in which there were potentially some golf clothes intermingled with national security documents of the United States. So today is worth celebrating because indulging white people who commit crimes is a gaping wound in America's side and in the side of its ability to have strong national security, strong national defense systems. Pour one out today for all the people in government agencies, CIA agencies, federal agencies who potentially lost their lives or experienced torture and loss of life as a consequence of Trump's mishandling of national security documents, including classified documents and even top secret classified documents. So who knows to what extent Trump sold, we know he showed off classified documents to people who didn't have classification clearance to see classified documents. We know because we've heard his voice as well as reading the transcript that Trump spoke to a journalist who was writing a Mark Meadows biography, and Trump staff taped the conversation with Trump because they habitually taped conversations with journalists in order to be able to contradict a journalist if they felt a journalist had departed from 100% accurate rendition of something that Trump said, if the quote wasn't perfect. That was why they taped these things. And Trump, in that taped conversation, said that he didn't have the right to show people these documents, so it was a problem because he could have declassified them while he was president, but he didn't. Yes, now there was a problem. And the document he was holding up was a plan, a military fleshed out plan of how to attack Iran and what resources would be used, presumably, what sequence of events would occur. A national defense document on how the American military forces would attack a hostile country. And they had produced that document for him at his request. Trump wanted to start a war with Iran. Again, part of his own efforts to increase his chances of being reelected. He believed that someone who started a war would be more secure in office because people are less likely to rock the boat with their votes if the country is already destabilized by being out. That is the political science behind that move on his part, but clearly people were able to dissuade him from launching that war. I'm also grateful to the chief of the armed forces at that time. What was the disobedient general's name? We'll put it in Google and we'll help ourselves. Mark Milley. Oh, there we go. I didn't even have to Google it. I just had to give myself some time. So General Mark Milley was not going to cooperate with Trump launching a war on Iran for the purposes of enhancing his second term chances, his chances of winning a second term in office. Trump already achieved to win his first term in office. He appealed to Russia openly for help. Privately, his son met with a Kremlin-affiliated lawyer, Natasha Veselnitskaya, in a Trump Tower office in order to discuss the idea of fabricating propaganda against Hillary Clinton. And I say fabricating, even though people haven't confirmed that it was going to be made up. But it's so unfair that all of the reporting on Trump Jr.'s meeting with hostile foreign spy-type people, they all say, oh, yes, for digging up dirt on Hillary Clinton, which makes a concession to that narrative that favors Trump, that there was dirt to dig up on Hillary Clinton. I'm sure it's similar to what happened with Ukraine. Trump illegally held up a congressionally apportioned $400 million military aid gift to Ukraine, an American ally, in order to help that country defend itself against the incursions of an invading Russian force. And that was in 2019? When was Trump impeached for the first time? Anyway, he was impeached for the first time for having a phone call with Zelensky, but more than that, having his minions travel to Ukraine as well. Rudy Giuliani, what's a bald-headed name? Gordon. He was a Trump appointee who went to Ukraine and did renovations to the diplomatic headquarters there. And he's still like a good little mob underling. He still protected Trump and said he's not sure what Trump's intention was. But the intention was made evident through the hearing. The intention was to get President Volodymyr Zelensky to agree to announce a hearing into Joe Biden in connection with corruption in Ukraine, to feed in this false narrative that was being worked on by Rudy Giuliani to fabricate evidence against Joe Biden, when Joe Biden, as vice president under Barack Obama, had helped lead an international pressure campaign to fire a corrupt prosecutor, Victor Shokin, who was failing to prosecute corrupt companies, including failing to investigate companies that were potentially corrupt as well as prosecute corrupt people. So he was failing to investigate Burisma, and the EU, the International Monetary Fund, were all behind a push to say for Ukraine to be able to come to the table as a modern nation, it needs to have some of that corrupt, often Kremlin-affiliated corruption rooted out and prosecuted. It has to have a healthy, functional judicial system. There has to be accountability for financial corruption. Otherwise, we can't play with you if we can't have those assurances that corruption will be investigated and prosecuted. So, cheers, Christopher. Cheers, Bob. I have to just give my son a phone so that he can chat with a friend. So I will take 1 second to walk out of the room and do that. Yoo-hoo! And another friend saying hooray. And I'm going to stop to say hooray, because it is good to have friends who don't just want to brush this under the table, who don't just want to say, oh, I'm not partisan, so I just, keep an open mind, both sides, as if I don't have an open mind, as if those of us who have worked for years to sound an alarm about Trump are just doing so because we're narrow-minded. No, we have an open mind. We paid attention to the evidence. We understood that it was a fascist strategy of weaponizing racism in the United States and weaponizing sexism and weaponizing the hold that Rupert Murdoch's Fox News channel has on the brains of about 27% of the American television watching public, to use that to inflame hostility towards designated enemies, against outgroups, be they migrants, undocumented migrants, or people of non-white skin color. The level of hostility experienced by migrants in this country that increased by 300% spike in hate crime reporting after Trump took office. So yes, I'll be right back in a minute. Thank you, Christopher. Just, yes, won't be. All right. It has been years. It has been a long time. Now I don't have my phone to check the news like that, so I'm going to go live onto Twitter like this using a different tab. Oh, let's see if Council is speaking yet. Oh, he is. I'll share the screen, I think. Nope. No, he's not yet, but they have got a little screen set up now with some empty chairs and people, some filled chairs in front of an empty podium. So they're still having a conversation about inflation, but shortly, Mike Smith will address America, and that is very exciting. So I will take the Mike Lindell thing off first. So yes, I would love it if Mike Lindell were there. So I'll put that up on screen so you can see. That's what I'm looking at.
Put it out at $5.25.
We don't need it for now. We'll make it.
Cents a gallon, and I know a lot of people didn't see that in the newspaper, but it was in the newspaper.
Is that the smallest?
Well, petroleum prices are a real problem for everyday living. I mean, they're not set by the White House.
See what other
not even set by the oil companies. They're set by forces including
I'll check Brad Heath. He's the account
Saudi Arabia and
he's
Russia.
He's a DC reporter for Reuters, and he was the first person I noticed breaking
oil and gas producers in the United States.
Okay, he's left it at that.
Big companies here have a role in the
All right,
pricing.
and now I should have used Trump indictment for this broadcast.
This is Evie, Richmond, Kentucky, Republican.
Get off and start again with a new hashtag. So that anybody who wants to join in,
Go ahead,
everybody's got their glasses out.
Hi, Karen. I have a few questions for you. How you guys
live Trump charges 4 counts of 2020 election here in court. He's been indicted in
I'm
3 different
telling
groups
you, from a
now.
poor
The
family
indictments total
person, you go
78,
to
I believe.
groceries and you can barely get
4
two
of the
bags, and
6
it'll be
alleged
$100.
co-conspirators are
No,
attorneys.
you're right.
So there's a little
We need to
description.
have help on
They're not
groceries,
named,
and my
but it says
family does work.
co-conspirator
We're
1,
not on
an
food
attorney who
stamps.
was willing to not
We
spread
couldn't get them
knowingly
if we
false
wanted to.
claims and
But
pursue
I just think that
strategies.
somebody's going to have to make a move, because I
Oh
agree
my
with the other
goodness,
guy. Biden don't even know who he is. He's got somebody else doing the work.
that was probably
So if somebody else is doing the work, why is everybody fighting over Trump? At least Trump got it done. So let Trump back in, because he's not going to have somebody working for him.
Karen
what
Petra.
Well, I have to say, I think Donald Trump has many people working for him, lawyers probably most included.
Sorry, I did not realize that person was live because I hadn't turned up the volume on my microphone.
Democrats on Capitol Hill during last year and as inflation.
I'm gonna mute that because I'm still reading from Twitter from people posting page 4 of the indictment document. So we're reading about the 6 different co-conspirators as they are described in this document. An attorney who was willing to spread knowingly. Okay. An attorney who was willing to spread knowingly false claims. I would like it to say knowingly spread anyway. Knowingly spread false claims and pursue strategies that the defendant's 2020 re-election campaign attorneys would not. Oh, that sounds like Rudy Giuliani then. It does sound like Rudy Giuliani, an attorney who was willing to do things that other attorneys were not. Rudy Giuliani or Sidney Powell, co-conspirator 2, an attorney who devised and attempted to implement a strategy to leverage the vice president's ceremonial role overseeing the certification proceeding to obstruct the certification of the presidential election. All right, so which attorney do we know that was most keen on insisting that then Vice President Mike Pence, that might be Jeffrey Eastman. Not Jeffrey Eastman, John Eastman, sorry. That's probably John Eastman, co-conspirator number 2, okay, who was big on pushing the plan. He had memos. He's had his emails already subpoenaed. He resisted. He had to send them to a special master or something. They were subpoenaed from the university that employed him as a law lecturer because John Eastman was using his university email address to send these emails conspiring to overthrow the election, and still claims, it's all above board. It was just a legal theory that Mike Pence could violate the Constitution of the United States by taking that ceremonial role and using it to go, no, none of this seems right. I don't feel good about letting Trump be voted out of office. I think what we need to do is use a provision of the Constitution to skip voting and just have one representative from each state in the House of Representatives determine who the president will be, in which case there would have been 26 Republican delegates versus 24 Democrat delegates if you took one from each state. There were 26 Republican-controlled states at that point. I think there probably still are, anyway, 26. So 26 Republican delegates voting to have Trump have a second term. And that was John Eastman's idea. He sketched that out in multiple emails to people. Let's see who co-conspirator 3 is. Okay, unnamed. An attorney whose unfounded claims of election fraud the defendant privately acknowledged to others sounded crazy. Nonetheless, the defendant embraced and publicly amplified co-conspirators 3's disinformation. Okay, so we can name that person as well. That's going to be Sidney Powell, co-conspirator 3. Everybody admitted it sounded crazy. She said Hugo Chavez, who had been dead for some time, that his computer systems were involved in, his Venezuelan computer systems were involved in switching votes from Trump to Biden. So that the crazy one is Sidney Powell for sure. That's co-conspirator number 3. Co-conspirator number 4, a Justice Department official who worked on civil matters and who, with the defendant, attempted to use the Justice Department to open sham election sham election crime investigations and influenced state legislatures with knowingly false claims of election fraud. Well, that's going to be Jeffrey Eastman. Not Jeffrey Eastman. Jeffrey Clark, who was an official. He worked in environmental law in the Department of Justice at the time, and Trump was going to make him Attorney General. He was going to make him head of the Department of Justice. And everybody else said that they were going to resign if Trump did that. So that was how that part of the plan got scotched. But yes, he was on board with that. Jeffrey Clark. He was, I think, arrested in his boxer shorts. And we'll see if we can find a picture of that, because that'll be exciting. Jeffrey Clark arrested. Photo. Yep. Okay, there's Jeffrey Clark in his boxer shorts. And the photo is from police body camera footage. So I remember last night. Oh, he's speaking. Hang on, let's watch Jack Smith. Sorry.
United States. Since the attack on our Capitol, the Department of Justice has remained committed to ensuring accountability for those criminally responsible for what happened that day. This case is brought consistent with that commitment, and our investigation of other individuals continues. In this case, my office will seek a speedy trial so that our evidence can be tested in court and judged by a jury of citizens. In the meantime, I must emphasize that the indictment is only an allegation and that the defendant must be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. I would like to thank the members of the Federal Bureau of Investigation who are working on this investigation with my office, as well as the many career prosecutors and law enforcement agents from around the country who have worked on previous January 6th investigations. These women and men are public servants of the very highest order, and it is a privilege to work alongside them. Thank you.
Why didn't you charge any of the other co-conspirators, Mr. Smith?
Are you worried this gets back to the election?
Are you planning to bring any other charges against more individuals?
And hearing live from Special Counsel Jack Smith announcing an indictment against former President Donald Trump in attempts to overturn the 2020 election. The Trump campaign issuing a statement that reads, "This is nothing more than the latest corrupt chapter in the continued pathetic attempt by the Biden crime family and their weaponized Department of Justice to interfere with the 2024 presidential election, in which President Trump is the undisputed frontrunner and leading by substantial margins." If you missed the special counsel's statement, you can watch it online at cspan.org, and we'll get your reaction on tomorrow's Washington Journal here on C-SPAN starting at 7 a.m. Eastern.
I really don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy media people just reading out Trump's incredibly deceitful propaganda tweets in a straight face. That's really, I have some strong feelings about that. Okay, B is John Eastman. I'm just typing this out. I'm going to go back. John Eastman, Jeffrey Clark, Sydney Howell. Oh, and maybe Jenna Ellis? Maybe. One, two, three, four. That's only 5, and there's 6. Well, here's another lawyer. Oh, no, only 4 of them are lawyers. One was a political consultant. Who's a political consultant? Who was connected with a plot? Oh, what about the... no, not the dude who heads Judicial Watch. And 2 non-lawyers. Okay. What a day, guys. What a day, my fabulous people. Let's have a look at that thing again so you can see what I was reading from when I was oblivious to realizing that Jack Smith was speaking. So here we go. Co-conspirator 1, attorney who knowingly spread false claims, Rudy Giuliani for sure. Co-conspirator 2, an attorney who devised and attempted to implement a strategy, John Eastman. Co-conspirator 3, Sidney Powell, sounded crazy. Co-conspirator 4, Justice Department official Jeffrey Clark. Co-conspirator 5. Oh, wait, co-conspirator 4, it doesn't even say they're a lawyer. I think they probably are a lawyer. I think it's still probably, yeah, Jeffrey Clark. Okay, co-conspirator 5, an attorney who assisted in devising and attempting to implement a plan. Could be Jenna Ellis. Who else tried to do the fraudulent electors scheme? I know who might know. Muller, she wrote, might know. She'll have a good guess. So we're going to copy it, copy link to tweet, and we will go back and ask her what she thinks. What a day. This has been a long time waiting for this. Okay. Does anybody in my audience have some guesses? Guesses about the names of the co-conspirators? Yes. Thinking Rudy, John Eastman, Jeffrey Clark, Sydney. Oh. Plus 2 more. And Eastman. Mm-hmm. There you go. All right, so let's see if we get an answer for that soon. Any more notes from people about the Trump indictment? We can look at reactions. We can just celebrate. Let's do a shout out to the people who have managed to do this. The people who have persisted despite Trump's ongoing campaign to defame them, the FBI agents, the prosecutors, everybody involved, because it must be scary. That man has no compunction about inciting violence. Inciting violence is a cheerful strategy for him. Anything he can do to exercise power, to evade consequences for his crimes. And his crimes are all byproducts of his strategy to award himself power and fame and wealth. You want me to read something? Make a YouTube show?
She knows how.
She knows how? Okay. Well, are you going to make one and then save it to draft so I can see, or you just you want to do it? Yeah, you can do that, darling. Oh, can you close the door behind you, though, sweetness? No, I've got to feed my family very soon. They will be hungry, and I can do that. I've got things. Okay, so the prosecutor who handed up the indictment, Molly Gaston, is associated with the special counsel's January the 6th probe. Yes, that was things that people were saying as they were rubbing their hands together and hoping that today was the day, that it's Trump indictment day. Oh, Stephen Miller. That would be good, wouldn't it? Oh, yes, because he still goes that dude still goes to news media, echo bubbles, conservative echo chambers, and claims that the election was stolen on Trump's behalf. So that's fantastic. Oh, look at this beautiful little picture. We're going to celebrate the artwork. I remember when Trump lost the election in 2020. I remember we waited a few days for the results to be handed down, that Biden had officially won, that the networks, not even officially, but the networks were prepared to call it as a Biden victory. What was the last date we were waiting for? Was it Georgia? Was it Georgia? Was it Arizona? Was called pretty early. Fox News called Arizona for Biden and created some big hostility. They got fired, the people from the elections desk who were in charge of making that speculation, that from the results coming out, it looked like Biden had definitely won that state. Trump was so angry because it interfered with his election stealing plan of saying, look, clearly I've already won it. We don't need to count the votes anymore. Stop counting. I've won. Any more counting is clearly part of this scheme to steal the election from me by counting mail-in votes or something. However, he was going to fraudulently represent vote counting as somehow unethical or illegal behavior. He still wanted to be able to have a more solid ground for saying, look at me, I'm leading in the election counting. And he knew he would be leading because guess what Trump did? Trump deterred his own supporters from voting by mail, and Trump deterred his own voters from fearing COVID infection. He did the opposite of fear-mongering. He gave false reassurance to his followers that COVID was nothing to worry about. And then he encouraged Republican legislatures, state legislatures, to postpone the counting of mail-in votes because in Democratic-led states, they were like, oh, if you voted early by mail, we'll count that first. Yep, we'll count early votes. Republican-led states went, nope. Even if you voted 2 weeks before Election Day, we're going to hold on to your mailed-in ballots and count them after. So Trump knew there would be a red mirage effect of the in-person votes being counted first, the overly confident, COVID-unafraid voters who voted in person, who weren't afraid about standing in line and breathing near other potentially asymptomatic infectious people. They were more likely to have dysfunctional levels of confidence with regards to this pandemic that can cause death and disability. And that was a Trump strategy. And I don't know if we'll ever get anybody to admit to it. I don't know if there will ever be a whistleblower that talks about it. There was one whistleblower who'd been on a Jared Kushner team who talked about something a little bit different, who spoke to a journalist from Vanity Fair in an article called Why Testing Plans Went Poof. Yes, sweetness? Is that Mummy's account? No, don't use your father's phone. You can use Mummy's account? Okay. Yeah, you can. I'm broadcasting on YouTube right now. My daughter wants to make a YouTube video with her friend. You can do mine, darling. Baby girl, I'm in the middle of a live broadcast, but I will try and help you with this. No, don't go on screen, darling. You want to wave?
Hello, people.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you can put my email in. Do you remember my email? I'll write it down.
Thank you. Okay, I'm just working on this.
Okay. She didn't see that message. Have I seen that Israel sent grain ships into the Black Sea going to Odessa and is being followed by US submarine bomber and US drones? I haven't seen that. Why did Israel send grain ships into the Black Sea? Are they trying to circumvent the Russian blockade? Anyway, that's exciting. All right. Oh, and we'll go and we'll check and see if I've got any notifications. Actually, I got.
What are you doing now? I'm making the account. Are you making one?
Don't spy my password, baby. Don't spy my password. There you go. All right. Oh, that's from yesterday. Okay. I got excited for a second. Maybe Israel said we'll go first. That is maybe what happened. US government's trending. Jeffrey Clark, Sidney Powell, and Eastman are trending. So that looks like people are speculating about who the unnamed co-conspirators are. They think Jeffrey Clark is a DOJ official. Yes. I'm looking at an account called Clearing the Fog. But what I probably need to do is go and sort out my family. All right. The January 4th meeting with Eastman. It's in the indictment. The defendant held a meeting with co-conspirator 2, the vice president's chief of staff, and the vice president's counsel for the purpose of convincing the vice president, based on the defendant's knowingly false claims of election fraud, that the vice president should reject or send to the states Biden's legitimate electoral votes rather than count them. Also send back the electoral votes and use that, deploy that section of the Constitution which says what to do in the event of a disputed election result. If there's no clear winner, the Constitution says, then one delegate from each state may vote. Is it from the 12th Amendment? Section of the Constitution dealing with an undecided election result. Is it 12th Amendment? Okay, yep. Here we go. Constitution Center. Okay, if such, the president having the greatest number of votes, electoral college votes, for president shall be the president, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if no person have such majority, then from the persons having the highest numbers not exceeding 3, so the top 3, on the list of those voted for as president, the House of Representatives shall choose immediately by ballot the president. So immediately on January the 6th, Trump's preferred outcome would have been for them to say, yep, okay, we're rejecting the Electoral College votes. Vice President Pence, he's rejected them. He said they're disputed. It's too contentious. There's nobody's got a clear majority here because I'm just concerned. I've heard a lot of things about Hugo Chavez of Venezuela. I've heard a lot of things about dead people voting. It's too contentious. I'm sending these electoral college votes back to the states from which they came. And immediately, the House of Representatives shall choose immediately by ballot the president. But in choosing the president, the votes shall be taken by states, the representation from each state having one vote. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. So they would have had to have at least 25 delegates, 25 different states agree to this. And if the House of Representatives shall not choose a president, whenever the right of choice shall devolve upon them, before the 4th day of March next following, then the vice president shall act as president, as in the case of the death or other constitutional disability of the president. All right, so Mike Pence could have been president until the 4th of March, until the House of Representatives got a quorum together so that 26 people could have formed a majority in voting for Trump against 24 Democratic representatives. All right. it's time for popular vote. My goodness, Hillary would have been president. Absolutely. The popular vote would have given less power to, I hate to say it, but older white people. And that is the reason why it's so important that Joe Biden run for office in 2020 and again 2024, because the Electoral College system disproportionately empowers conservative white people in the United States, more likely to be older white people. They still constitute a large slab of active voters, a significant portion of those voters. And the Electoral College empowers those people to have their votes count for more than they would in a one-person, one-vote system within a popular vote democracy, which is a standard form of democracy. So that Electoral College system makes it necessary for Biden to run for office because his age and his whiteness help to increase the buy-in of white voters, because you still need a majority of white voters if you don't have the most solid coalition of people of color. And the propaganda campaigns have definitely been attacking, or not attacking, but targeting Black men, people of color in the United States, to try and undermine their feelings for President Biden, to try and tell Black men that Democrats haven't lived up to their promises, that it's been unsatisfactory, to appeal to their egos and say, oh, people expect you to vote for President Biden, but it's not. You don't have to be sheep. You don't have to do what's expected of you. You're better than that. You should either not vote at all or vote Republican. That is a concerted, effortful propaganda campaign. A lot of participants from a lot of different sides of the aisle on it. There's far left people trying to tell people the best way to move forward with government in America is to allow fascists to gain office again, burn it all down, and then maybe you'll get Bernie Sanders or socialism and all your student debts forgiven, and you'll just have the fun of watching everything burn and saying, I was right, President Biden's not embraced by the American people. He is embraced by the American people, but the Electoral College system makes elections more dicey. It makes it easier, makes the soil fertile for oligarchical interests to buy their way through propaganda and corrupt influence to override the will of the majority of American voters. The majority of American voters chose Hillary Clinton, but she could not take office because the American political system does not have a popular vote system yet. New young voters are often, yes, very Gen Z is more likely to be Democrats, even when they own a home, even when they get access to more affluence. They're still likely to be fast to their more progressive understanding of the world, in which women deserve equal rights under the law, in which female politicians are good, in which it's not okay to roll back federal protections for women's reproductive autonomy, and it's not okay to disparage minorities in order to inflame base human emotions of in-group versus out-group loyalty, to inflame the suspicions of white Christian Americans that they are the ones being truly discriminated against, that they're losing access to being special, to favored status that they inherently deserve, to capitalize on that. They did have more cultural dominance, and they're losing that assumption of virtue. They're losing that assumption of white goodness, white innocence, that has made it more difficult to hold criminals to account if they have a certain complexion. And it doesn't mean all white criminals get away with it by any means. It just means that there was disproportionate injustice in the system of white people being under prosecuted and Black people being over prosecuted because of the long shadows of a system of inherited bias and inherited rusted on convictions that there was inherent worth and inherent goodness attached to one type of in-group, one type of white white in group. Authentic Americans by that racist understanding of the world, and in stark contrast to the facts in which, nope, slavery wasn't beneficial to those black people who were enslaved. White people weren't doing them a favor or teaching them skills. White people were stealing the skills that they had and stealing those people because away from their homes and from their intact families in order to benefit from those stolen lives and those stolen skill sets. And if people managed to survive and acquire any skills, it was often in the teeth of significant torture and oppression, people having limbs cut off or even being, or finger joints cut off or even being killed as a punishment and as a public deterrence for reading, for learning to read and write, and as a deterrence to other people who were enslaved and who may have aspired to acquiring those type of skills. So Bob was thinking about how long it's been. You think we've been friends for 7 or more years. So let's see, 4 years of Trump. And, Veterans Affairs called Christopher. I didn't know you were a veteran, Christopher. That's cool. You've literally never mentioned that to me before. Or maybe you haven't. My brain has sieved out the information. I'm sorry. I don't know a song called What a Long Strange Trip It's Been, but I'll go listen to it. And I will say the senior is counting on them. Yes, we're counting on Gen Z and their ability to avoid propaganda. All right, chaps. Christopher, I'm sorry. I'll post a comment saying, bye, Chris. Sorry, because I won't be here when he comes back. But and yesterday, Sheldon came into the chat. I hadn't seen him for a long time, but he came just as I left, so I didn't get to reply. If anybody sees Sheldon or encounters him across this wild west of the internet, please say hello. And take care, everybody. Happy Indictment Day. 4 more indictments. We're up to 74. 3, lots of indictments. This one for violating people's constitutional rights to have their votes counted. Let's have one last reading of what it is. Oh, Philip Bump's got some ideas. Oh, he has the same ideas as I have. Giuliani, Eastman, Powell, Jeffrey Clark. Doesn't know who 5 and 6 are. Maybe other people have a guess. Oh, Cheeseborough. And Cleta Mitchell, Lauren Windsor. She's very in the know about things. Trump gave $1 million to Mark Meadows' C3 nonprofit, where insurrection attorney Cleta Mitchell is building an army of election denier poll watchers in battleground states like Wisconsin, hosting election integrity summits for right-wing activists. Okay. My daughter's singing Olivia Rodrigo songs. All right. Well, that was great. Thank you so much, Christina Bob. Yes. The song is Tracking from the Grateful Dead. Okay, cool. I'll look it up. Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Have a great day. Cheers and talk to you soon. Bye. 7 years of friendship. It's great. I've enjoyed it.